Folks, thanks so much for tuning in. We have got some headlines for you today. Don't miss any of these. Everything from new developments, of course, in the Middle East, a real change. It seems a change of position with Donald Trump vis-a-vis the situation on transgender surgery for kids. That's caught a lot of people by surprise. And another thing that's caught a lot of people by surprise is some new political opponents about the pipeline proposed from Alberta down to the coast. And why do people stand in line? Let's check all of that out. But let's jump right away to something we're seeing here with the increased attacks now from the US into Iran, where now more American soldiers have been killed, some in Jordan by missile strikes. And we see the US really ramping up the attacks, hitting more targets in Iran. We're going to see where that is going to go. The president of Lebanon has agreed he's going to be meeting with President Trump. This is the president of Lebanon, Joseph Aroun. He's going to be meeting in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, is projected right now. As we know, the situation is definitely, has always been a challenge, where the country of Lebanon has, in fact, for decades, been sort of quietly invaded by Iranian terrorist forces, by Hezbollah. They set up encampments and they set up all kinds of protected areas in Lebanon. And from there, they are right on the border of northern Israel, and they can attack and fire missiles daily, which does not get reported all that much over the years. And the president and president of the US and of Lebanon seeing, can they aggressively pursue and crush these terrorist enclaves, Hezbollah, in Lebanon? Because every time Israel, of course, retaliates against the enclaves, against the missile sites that are hidden in Lebanon, then Israel gets attacked verbally and in the media as attacking Lebanon rather than the terrorists. Anyway, let's see where those discussions are going to go. We do know that with this increased intensity of fighting vis-a-vis Iran, we see the average price of oil, this is in US dollars, has now crept back up over $4. This is per gallon for you Canadian folks. And we're in some areas we're paying pretty close to that just per liter. In a week, just a month ago, gas per gallon was $3.90 average across the US. And now we said it's just over $4 today. And if you go back a year ago, it was just over $3. So about a 75% increase. So you can weigh that out in terms of Canadian dollars and liters. We're still looking, if it holds, a 25% increase in price of gas. We'll see if that holds or if it drops. A year ago, there was the implementation. If you remember, there was a lot of talk about this in the US, as President Trump called it, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Part of that act had to do with easing the tax burden and the regulatory burden on manufacturers. And on the industrial side in the US, where all the jobs are, and now a year after they've been able to measure, has there been an increase in hiring? Has there been an increase in jobs in terms of the manufacturing companies that have received a slight lessening of their tax burden on their own machinery and other areas of inputs? And the job report that has come out today shows positive job increase, an increase in hiring in those particular areas, an increase in productivity. So it seems after 1 year, again, proving the case, of course, one that I maintain as a previous Minister of Finance, that when you lower taxes and when you do it in a responsible way, you will increase the number of jobs that are created as more people are willing to build and to invest. So some positive news on that front. Not positive news for Canada on the tariff front, because Donald Trump has just announced a 50% tariff, 50% tariff on a number of goods and products coming out of Canada. This would include certain apparel, certain clothing, certain synthetic goods. It obviously includes Canadian dairy products. Alcohol is a severe point of dispute. And so This is going to really impact Canadian trade, Canadian goods, and let's see if that can be wrestled down. As a matter of fact, premiers are meeting this week, are meeting in Nova Scotia, and they're talking about is there something that can be done? Should there be a lowering of the tariffs that Canada is imposing on US products? So tariff wars always lead to responses. It always leads to both sides getting hurt. In my view, we'll see where this goes. Well, Dr. Peter Najjar out of the Johns Hopkins Medical Facility is reporting, is the head of a group reporting because of AI, some remarkable breakthroughs in the identification and early warning, for instance, of pancreatic cancer. They've developed systems now through AI health related research where doctors, what they are saying, what Dr. Peter Najjar is saying, is that we'll be able to identify even decades earlier who might be prone to pancreatic cancers. Pancreatic cancer, of course, being one of the deadliest of all cancers, and ways in which the prevention of it can be increased. Also reporting out of Johns Hopkins Medical, the fact that using AI applications to do the testing of drugs, normally where testing for safety can sometimes take years, if not decades, through the accelerated processes of AI, this can be reduced to months, if not weeks, in terms of being able to run through hundreds and hundreds of different suggested pharmaceutical products to see which ones, in fact, are safe. So, some breakthroughs there on the health side. Well, President Trump has got a lot of attention just over the last 24 hours, as if he needs to get more. And what he has said, he's come out with a declaration. He's always been opposed, quite rightly, to, as more and more jurisdictions around the world are, to children being exposed to and going through the sexual sex change as a result of surgery, as a result of pharmaceuticals and chemicals and pre-puberty drugs. Many jurisdictions, including some in Canada, notably the province of Alberta, has said there's to be none of this altering, gender altering surgery, so called, and the chemicals to alter puberty. And that would be reserved only for when you are at the age of 16 or in some cases 18. And President Trump is saying he's still opposed to that happening in children, but he's going to give parents the right to decide. If parents sign for it, then their kids can get it. This has caught a lot of people by alarm. Some people are saying, well, we have laws against cannabis. You can't consume cannabis if you're under 18. So does that mean if a parent could sign approval for the kids to smoke dope, that they'd be allowed to smoke dope? This is going to be interesting to see. Let's watch this. This is an emerging item, real change here. It seemed at one point the U.S. administration was saying no sex change operations, no so-called mutilation surgery on kids, and now Trump saying maybe if parents sign, it's going to be okay. Let's watch that one. Well, I'll tell you something interesting to watch. Down in the country of Nicaragua, which has for decades been a socialist stronghold, with occasional exceptions in elections, where the socialists have been punted out anytime they have been thrown out, and you get a centrist party or one that's more attuned to allowing economic freedom. You always see rises of prosperity, you see increases in jobs. And but Daniel Ortega, who has been one of the strongest leftist leaders in South America, announcing just yesterday that there won't be any more elections in Nicaragua. He's saying they're going to come to an end. As you may be aware, he and his wife, Rosaria Murillo, he gave her the position a while ago of vice president. Now he's raised her to the position of co-president. So Daniel Ortega and his wife Rosario Murillo serving as co-presidents. I can guarantee you there are some massive bank accounts, maybe in Switzerland or elsewhere, where this power couple has put away billions of dollars, regardless of the poor that are dying and starving in the streets of Nicaragua. And he's saying no more elections. That's going to be an interesting one to watch for sure. I don't know if you followed these two individuals, the Tate brothers, Andrew and Tristan Tate. They have they're infamous, famous and infamous around the world. In case you haven't been following this, and going back for many many years, they started online, all kinds of online sexual agencies. They ran a course in terms of how to let's say woo women, how to make yourself look tough. They've been involved in just tons of controversy in terms of rape charges. In the UK, they moved to Romania to escape the charges there, and finally arrested in Florida to be deported back to the UK, and if not even to Ukraine, to face charges. Many women coming forward accusing them of rape, and not just of being used in their sexual, their whole agency business, but serious charges of rape and serious violence. And the Tate brothers are fighting that extradition. Interesting that they have, and not in the too far past, had friendly interviews with the likes of Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, kind of overlooking the severe, many charges of rape and assault and violence against them, and kind of seeing them as pioneers of sorts. Anyway, we'll see if that's going to affect in a negative way Tucker Carlson or Candace Owen. Well, there's another area of opposition that is surprising people. As you know, we've been covering here, one of the first to cover it, the pipeline that is being proposed in joint agreement with the federal Liberals and the Conservative government provincially in Alberta. Another pipeline to get much needed refined oil products out to the world so that global emissions can be reduced everywhere. And now the British Columbia Conservative Party, and I'm careful to say this, is not the federal Conservative Party, but the British Columbia Conservative Party is raising opposition to the pipeline. They're saying that they're hearing from constituents in this regard, not wanting it to go through. They want to make sure, they're saying that there might not be enough First Nations consultation. So interesting, obviously, because the pipeline is going through BC. Some people are saying that British Columbia residents won't be major beneficiaries. Of course, they would be through many of the through the taxes and through the, for instance, $10 billion going into the building of the port facilities down at Roberts Bank in British Columbia. But BC Conservatives, hoping to win the next election provincially against the NDP, seeming to hear and there from constituents raising concerns. Here's an interesting story from Ravenous Magazine, and some others are covering it also. And it's on the whole issue and the psychology behind standing in line and waiting in line for products. And it's become a phenomenon in itself, because what happens with somebody's doing a product, they get some of the influencers online who don't appear to be advertisers, but they'll subtly advertise a product or a service. People will rush to the place to buy it and stand in long lineups. I don't know about you, I have zero tolerance for lineups myself, but this is an increasing phenomenon. I recently talked to a couple that I know and respect who are just in Maui, of all places, and apparently there's a bakery shop there where there are phenomenal cinnamon buns. I'm not advertising for that bakery shop. I'm not going to mention it so nobody thinks I'm advertising. I don't get anything for that. But they stood, this very intelligent, responsive couple that I know, they stood in line for 2 hours waiting for a cinnamon bun. Now, the cinnamon buns are apparently fabulous and everything else, but 2 hours they waited. And it goes into the whole psychology as this is being looked at. Even Bloomberg has an article out this on also. They say that it brings meaning to people to be able to stand and socialize in a long lineup. There's also FOMO, that's fear of missing out. You don't want to miss out. And let's face it, sometimes you see a big lineup for something that's a sign that maybe there is some real quality in the product or the service being asked for. I don't know about you. I have myself zero tolerance for lineup. My wife and I will always get into a dispute. We'll get into the grocery line, and maybe if they don't have the checkouts, you've got to wait. The electronic checkouts, you have to wait for the regular ones. And I'm always trying to make the guess. I'll look at one line, I'll look at another, and I'll go, let's try that line up over there. I think it's going to move faster. And she always rolls her eyes because invariably we switch lines, we pull out of the line, and I'll stand and I usually lose. It turns out that the person or the persons in front of me have 200 coupons they've got to cash in or something else. Anyway, I have zero tolerance for lineups, but it's a growing phenomenon and more people willing to put up with it. I mentioned we've talked about Iran, of course, at the top of the podcast here. There's just an announcement that they are closing down in Iran the Presbyterian Church of Iran, which is located in Tehran. It's a beautiful location. I've seen it, been there. St. Petersburg Presbyterian. The Iranian government shutting it down. That church has been in existence and open to all people for 150 years, and Iran is shutting it down. Keep Christians in mind in your prayers as the vicious the vicious Iranian extremist regime, and not Taliban, continues to clamp down on Christians there. And the U.S. announcing that they are going to possibly cut aid to Nigeria if the Nigerian government does not step in and do something significant to the increasing number of the slaughter of Christians, burning not just of churches, but burning of villages. It's widespread, reported, and apparently the Islamic influence within the government there is deterring sufficient follow-up and investigation to stop these attacks on Christians. Keep them in mind in your thoughts and prayers today. Folks, thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow.